Objective will create a recruit token at base. Then he will move Noxian Drummer to Zone Warrens. Noxian Drummer's ability will trigger, creating a recruit token where the Noxian Drummer is. While Noxian Drummer's ability is on the stack, Yasuo will play Gust as a reaction, moving Noxian Drummer back to the player's hand. Then the chain will resolve and cleanup will begin. So, what happens to the recruit from Noxian Drummer's triggered ability? How ability triggers resolve on the chain, even though the game pieces are no longer on the board, is probably one of the more confusing interactions in Riftbound, but the core rules are there to help us clarify some things. When the conditions are met, the triggered abilities behave like activated abilities and are placed on the chain. And while on the chain, these triggered abilities are considered pending items, so the triggered ability secures its place on the chain. However, triggered abilities of permanence are only able to have their conditions evaluated while on the board. This is to check for things on the card such as might, I attack, I defend, as well as the location of the card when the ability eventually triggers. The important text of the Noxian Drummer's trigger is here, meaning here is where the recruit will be played when the card resolves, which would be the player's hand, where recruits cannot be played. This essentially makes the Noxian Drummer's triggered ability void, meaning no recruit gets played. However, for cards such as Traveling Merchant, the player would still be able to discard and draw because the conditions of the movement for the Traveling Merchant were met, regardless of whether or not the Traveling Merchant is still on the board. Other things to consider is that if there are units at a location other than the battlefield that the combat is taking place at, but they have the attacker or defender designations, they lose those designations, which can make I attack and I defend triggers invalid.